Did you know the Vatican is a $15 billion financial empire? In 2019, auditors discovered a secret real estate deal in London that used $400 million in donations meant for the poor to buy a luxury building. This money came from Peter's Pence, the annual collection where Catholics worldwide give to help the needy. But this wasn't just some accounting mistake. It was a calculated move by an institution that has perfected the art of wealth accumulation over 2,000 years, all while enjoying tax-exempt status in every country on earth. The Vatican isn't just a religious center. It's a financial powerhouse that rivals major corporations in assets. It operates its own bank, a bank that exists beyond international oversight, and has spent centuries creating wealth concentration techniques that modern billionaires now study and copy. From selling salvation for cash with medieval indulgences to hiding modern investment portfolios in Swiss banks, the Vatican has built the longest-running and most successful wealth machine in human history. This is the final stage of institutional wealth concentration, complete financial secrecy combined with a moral authority that makes any criticism seem impossible. Let's rewind and see how this empire was built. I'll show you how 2,000 years of tax avoidance, financial innovation, and political maneuvering created this powerhouse. We'll explore why the Vatican Bank operates outside all international banking rules, how donations are sometimes invested in weapons manufacturers and speculative real estate, and why understanding the Vatican's financial playbook reveals how every major institution, from universities to foundations, learned to amass unlimited wealth while avoiding taxes and accountability. It all starts with what I call Stage 1, institutional foundation and legal immunity. Every wealth empire needs a legal shield from taxes and oversight. The Vatican wrote the book on this. The big shift happened in 313 AD when Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity with the Edict of Milan. This wasn't just about religious freedom, it was about building the infrastructure for wealth. Constantine gave the church property rights, tax exemptions, and legal authority. By the year 600, the Catholic Church was the largest landowner in the entire Roman Empire. Its properties were tax-free. They could gather wealth forever, and they answered only to their own laws, not the government's. This was the birth of perpetual, unsupervised wealth accumulation. Then came the Papal States. A document called the Donation of Constantine, later proven to be a forgery, claimed the emperor had given the Pope direct political power over the Western Roman Empire. Real or not, it gave the Church the justification it needed to rule over a huge chunk of central Italy for over 1,000 years. The Pope was both a spiritual leader and a king, using his religious authority to make political moves that protected and grew the Church's financial interests. The medieval Church also got incredibly creative with making money. They introduced indulgences, which were payments to reduce punishment for sins. This created a constant stream of cash for a service that couldn't be measured. Monasteries like the Benedictines and Cistercians acted like giant corporations disguised as spiritual retreats. They owned vast lands, ran farms and businesses, and produced goods, all while remaining tax-exempt, and the rule of clerical celibacy was a masterstroke. By requiring priests to be unmarried, the Church ensured its wealth couldn't be passed down to family heirs. Instead, it all stayed within the institution, growing and consolidating over generations. This leads us to Stage 2, banking innovation and financial infrastructure. Around the year 1000, the Vatican didn't just hoard wealth. It pioneered the banking techniques to manage it globally. The most famous example, the Knights Templar, officially backed by the Church in 1129. The Templars created Europe's very first international banking system. They were a hybrid, a holy military order and a financial institution. Their religious status allowed them to bypass laws against moneylending while they developed sophisticated systems of credit and finance that laid the groundwork for modern banking. Ever wondered how an institution dedicated to spiritual matters became one of the wealthiest on earth? The story of the Church's financial empire is a fascinating journey of innovation, power, and strategy. Let's peel back the layers. It all started with a clever idea from the Knights Templar. Imagine this: you're a merchant in the Middle Ages, and carrying bags of gold is risky business. The Templars created an early form of a letter of credit. You could deposit your money in London and get a note that allowed you to withdraw the same amount in Jerusalem. They were basically the first international bankers, also offering secured loans and currency exchange services. But they became too powerful, too rich. So, in 1307, the Church and the King of France teamed up to shut them down, seizing their assets and eliminating a major financial rival. With the Templars gone, the Vatican stepped up its own banking game. The Apostolic Chamber acted like a central bank for the Catholic world, managing church finances, collecting revenue, and investing in businesses, all while being exempt from the usual banking rules. They also formed a powerful alliance with the Medici family, the famous Italian bankers. The Medici managed the Pope's money, and in return got exclusive banking rights and political backing. It was a win-win that made both sides incredibly wealthy. The Church even monetized religious positions, allowing wealthy individuals to buy church offices and collect the income. Then came the Age of Exploration, a golden opportunity for global expansion. The Spanish and Portuguese colonial missions weren't just about spreading the faith. They were economic powerhouses. These missions acquired massive tracts of land in the Americas, often taking it from indigenous communities. Think of the mission properties in California or South America, millions of acres of prime real estate. They used indigenous labor, sometimes under slave-like conditions, to run these vast agricultural estates. They also controlled territories rich in natural resources, like the silver mines in Spanish America, which generated immense wealth. The Church's global network wasn't just limited to land. The Jesuits, for instance, were master traders. Their missions in Asia and South America were also commercial hubs, dealing in luxury goods, spices, and precious metals, all while enjoying religious exemptions from trade regulations. They even got involved in maritime insurance for Catholic merchants, creating yet another stream of income from the bustling global trade routes. This brings us to the modern era. The game changed completely in 1929 when Vatican City became its own sovereign country. This paved the way for the creation of the Institute for the Works of Religion, better known as the Vatican Bank, in 1942. This isn't your typical bank. Because it belongs to a sovereign state, it operates outside the regulations that govern other international banks. There are no transparency requirements or anti-money laundering laws to follow. The Vatican Bank serves about 15,000 clients, mostly Catholic institutions and a few select individuals, and offers a level of secrecy that even Swiss banks can't match. It manages an estimated $8 billion in assets invested in global markets, real estate, gold, and various businesses. And all of these investment decisions are made privately, with no public oversight. From medieval letters of credit to a modern, secretive financial institution, the Vatican's journey to accumulating wealth is a masterclass in combining spiritual authority with financial acumen. It's a story of adaptation, influence, and the quiet accumulation of power over centuries. For centuries, the Vatican has stood as a beacon of moral authority, built on faith and charity. But behind the sacred walls lies a financial empire shrouded in secrecy, one that often seems to contradict its very mission. Today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the world's most powerful and opaque institutions. The Vatican's investment portfolio is a masterclass in modern finance, yet it's riddled with ethical paradoxes. For instance, funds have been traced to companies involved in weapons manufacturing. That's right, donations intended for peace and charity have profited from the very tools of conflict, sometimes sold to nations engaged in war. This directly clashes with the Church's official stance against violence. It's a classic case of saying one thing while your money does another. Then there are the massive investments in major pharmaceutical companies. The Vatican profits from corporations whose products, particularly those related to birth control and certain bioethical procedures, are often in direct opposition to Catholic doctrine. It's a profound conflict of interest where moral teachings and financial returns collide. And let's not forget real estate. The Vatican is one of the largest property owners in the world, with a portfolio that includes luxury apartments in Paris, London, and Geneva. This isn't just about owning land, it's about high-stakes speculation. The most infamous example is the London property scandal. In 2014, the Vatican's Secretariat of State began pouring money into a luxury apartment building at 60 Sloane Avenue in London's exclusive Chelsea neighborhood. But this wasn't just any investment. The money came from Peter's Pence, the annual collection from Catholics worldwide, specifically meant for the Pope's charitable works. Over time, a staggering $400 million of these charitable funds were funneled into this high-risk deal. The transaction was a maze of offshore accounts and shell companies, designed to obscure the Vatican's involvement. The investment was managed through Swiss financial advisors and layered through so many entities it was nearly untraceable. Worse, it seems these decisions were made by a small group of clergy and their advisors, with little to no professional oversight or due diligence. The property failed to generate the expected returns, becoming a financial black hole that required even more money to sustain. This scandal wasn't just a bad investment. It was a betrayal of trust, using money for the poor to speculate on luxury real estate for the rich. So, how does the Vatican get away with this? It operates in a unique state of what can be called complete institutional protection. First, as a sovereign state, Vatican City is immune to external financial regulations. No government or international agency can force it to open its books. Second, it uses its religious authority as a shield. Any criticism of its finances can be dismissed as an attack on the Church itself, a powerful defense that no corporation could ever claim. The wealth is spread across a complex web of entities: the Vatican Bank, the administration of the patrimony of the Apostolic See known as APSA, and various foundations. This structure makes it nearly impossible to get a full picture of its finances. Clergy, not financial professionals, are often at the helm, framing these complex investment strategies as religious duties rather than what they are: sophisticated wealth management. What are we talking about in terms of scale? Conservative estimates put the Vatican's wealth at over $15 billion. But the true figure is likely much, much higher, hidden in undisclosed assets in global real estate. Its revenue streams are massive. Peter's Pence brings in up to $80 million a year. The Vatican museums generate another $100 million, and investment income is estimated to be between $200 and $400 million annually. Despite occasional claims of financial hardship and budget deficits, the evidence suggests that the Vatican's income far exceeds its operating costs. It's not just sustaining itself, it's actively accumulating wealth on an enormous scale. The story of the Vatican's finances is a story of power, secrecy, and contradiction. It forces us to ask a difficult question. When an institution's financial practices seem to undermine its moral message, which one truly defines it? Have you ever wondered how the Vatican, the smallest state in the world, manages its immense wealth? It's a story filled with complex investments, unique legal advantages, and a fascinating tension between faith and finance. Let's peel back the layers on this global financial powerhouse. Recent events, like the controversial London real estate deal, have pulled back the curtain on the Vatican's financial world. It turns out that donations collected for the Pope's charities, known as Peter's Pence, were used to fund high-risk property investments. This raised serious questions. Should charitable funds be used for speculative ventures, especially without telling the donors? The case also revealed incentive structures where financial advisors might have benefited personally from their recommendations, creating a potential conflict of interest. This isn't just about one bad investment. It points to a broader pattern. The Vatican seems to engage in significant risk-taking with money donated for the poor. When issues arise, the response has often been to shuffle personnel rather than implement deep structural changes toward transparency. It shows a system that has sophisticated financial skills but operates behind a veil of privacy that prevents outside scrutiny. One of the Vatican's biggest advantages is its unique tax and regulatory status. As a sovereign entity with a religious mission, it enjoys benefits that no commercial company could dream of. Its properties around the world are often exempt from local property taxes. Its investment income generally avoids taxation, which maximizes returns. Even its commercial activities, like the famous Vatican museums, operate under religious exemptions. This special status extends to its banking and investment rules. The Vatican Bank doesn't have to follow the same strict anti-money laundering and transparency standards as other international banks. It doesn't need to publicly disclose its investments, allowing it to move in the markets with complete privacy. Its accounting practices are also different, making it nearly impossible for outsiders to conduct a standard financial analysis. This creates an environment with very little external accountability. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. How do these financial practices align with the Vatican's own teachings? Catholic social doctrine emphasizes a special concern for the poor, warns against excessive wealth, and promotes social justice and stewardship. Yet, we see a focus on asset growth and wealth preservation that sometimes seems at odds with these principles. For instance, the continued accumulation of assets while global poverty persists raises questions about where the real priorities lie. Investments have reportedly been made in companies whose activities might conflict with Catholic teachings, suggesting financial returns can sometimes outweigh values. And the lack of transparency seems to contradict the idea of responsible stewardship that the Church itself promotes. Whenever these financial dealings face public criticism, the Vatican has a unique defense system built on its moral authority. Questions about financial management can be reframed as attacks on religious freedom. The Vatican can argue that its spiritual mission transcends worldly financial matters, placing it above normal scrutiny. And out of cultural respect, many people are hesitant to critically analyze the Holy See's financial operations. In the modern era, the Vatican operates like a major global financial institution. Its wealth isn't just sitting in a vault, it's actively managed through a sophisticated strategy. The portfolio is spread across global stocks, bonds, real estate, and private equity. This diversification is smart. It manages risk while capturing growth from different sectors and regions around the world. So, what we have is a deeply complex picture. The Vatican is a unique entity, navigating the worlds of faith and high finance. It leverages its special status to build and protect its wealth using modern, sophisticated strategies. But this approach creates an ongoing tension between its spiritual mission and its financial operations, raising fundamental questions about transparency, accountability, and the ultimate purpose of its vast resources. It's a conversation that touches on power, money, and the role of one of the world's oldest institutions in our modern world. Have you ever wondered just how wealthy the Vatican really is? It's one of the world's most secretive and powerful institutions, and its finances are a fascinating puzzle. Let's peel back the layers and explore the vast economic empire of the Vatican. First, let's talk about the assets. The Vatican's wealth isn't just a pile of gold in a vault, it's a sophisticated global portfolio. Think of prime real estate in major cities like London, Paris, and Geneva. These aren't just for show. They generate steady rental income and appreciate in value, acting as a powerful hedge against inflation. Then there's their fixed income portfolio. They hold a massive amount of government and corporate bonds, which provide a reliable income stream while preserving capital. But it doesn't stop there. The Vatican also dives into alternative investments like private equity and hedge funds, giving them access to exclusive, non-public market opportunities. Now, you might be thinking, who manages all this? This isn't amateur hour. The Vatican employs top-tier financial advisory services from major international investment firms, They get professional expertise but maintain ultimate control over decisions. They use modern portfolio theory, advanced risk management, and sophisticated currency hedging strategies to manage their global investments. Performance is measured with standard financial metrics, just like any major corporation. This is professional finance on a grand scale. This immense wealth translates directly into significant political power. The Vatican maintains diplomatic relationships with 183 countries. This global network isn't just for religious matters. It protects and advances the Vatican's institutional and financial interests worldwide. They also participate in international organizations, influencing global policy on everything from finance to social issues. In predominantly Catholic countries, the Vatican's cultural and moral authority can shape public policy, influencing everything from tax laws that benefit religious institutions to government spending priorities. However, the future isn't without its challenges. The traditional model of wealth accumulation is facing some serious threats. In many developed countries, religious participation is declining, which means fewer donations, a traditional cornerstone of their revenue. Secularization is also eroding the cultural authority that once shielded the Vatican from scrutiny. Younger generations are less likely to give religious institutions an automatic pass, demanding more transparency. This pressure for transparency is growing from all sides. International efforts to combat money laundering are putting a spotlight on all secretive financial institutions, including religious ones. Investigative journalism and digital media have made it easier than ever to examine and publicize the Vatican's financial operations. Even within the Church, Catholic organizations and individuals are demanding more accountability. On top of this, the ongoing financial costs of clerical abuse settlements create immense pressure, potentially forcing the liquidation of assets. Even the Vatican's sovereign status could face challenges if its financial dealings conflict with international law. What's fascinating is that the Vatican's playbook provides a blueprint for how other major tax-exempt institutions operate. Think about large university endowments. They use their tax-exempt status for educational purposes while running incredibly sophisticated investment operations. Their moral authority makes it difficult to criticize their wealth, and complex structures can obscure just how much they're worth. Private foundations do something similar, combining charitable exemptions with dynastic wealth preservation, all managed with a level of investment sophistication that rivals Wall Street. The story of the Vatican's wealth is a masterclass in combining institutional power, financial acumen, and historical privilege. It's a complex and evolving saga that raises important questions about wealth, power, and transparency in the modern world. How does an institution accumulate wealth for over 2,000 years, creating a system that seems almost untouchable? The answer might lie with the Vatican. It's not just a religious center. It's arguably the most successful model of institutional wealth accumulation in history. And what's truly fascinating is how its strategies are now being used by other major organizations, not just religious ones. Let's break down this template for building a financial empire. It starts with establishing moral authority, a claim to serve a higher purpose, whether it's faith, education, or charity. This moral high ground is then used to secure special legal status. Most importantly, tax exemptions. Think about it. Property tax exemptions originally meant for a local church are now applied to vast commercial-scale operations, all under the banner of a religious purpose. But it doesn't stop there. This is where the real financial genius comes in. These institutions adopt sophisticated multi-entity structures. Assets aren't held in one big pot. Instead, they're distributed across many legally separate organizations. This makes the overall financial picture incredibly difficult to trace. One entity might own valuable real estate, another might manage investments, and a third might handle the day-to-day operations. This separation shields the core assets from financial scrutiny and legal challenges. Then, they bring in the pros. We're talking about top-tier financial managers and legal experts who combine their skills with the unique advantages of the religious exemption claims. They navigate complex markets and legal systems, maximizing returns and minimizing obligations, all while operating under a protective cloak of religious authority that discourages deep investigation. The public sees the charitable work, the community service, the spiritual guidance. What they don't see is the intricate financial machinery working silently in the background, growing the institution's wealth. So, the Vatican's methods have created a powerful template. First, claim the moral high ground. Second, use that to get legal exemptions from taxes and oversight. Third, build a complex, opaque structure to manage and protect assets. And fourth, publicly emphasize your service to humanity while privately mastering the art of wealth accumulation. This isn't just about the Vatican anymore. We see this pattern across many of the world's largest tax-exempt institutions, be they religious, educational, or charitable foundations. They learn from the best. They see how a combination of moral authority and financial sophistication can create advantages that no for-profit company could ever hope to achieve. This allows institutional wealth to grow almost indefinitely, often far beyond what's needed for their stated mission. The Vatican's reported $15 billion empire isn't just a story about religious success, it's the perfected blueprint for concentrating wealth and power. This raises a critical question for all of us. When an institution accumulates wealth on this massive scale, is it truly serving the public purpose that justifies its tax-exempt status in the first place? Or does the system end up prioritizing the institution's own preservation and expansion over its mission? When we look at the Vatican's financial operations, it provides a lens through which we can examine all major tax-exempt organizations. It pushes us to consider whether our current laws strike the right balance between granting privileges to these institutions and ensuring they deliver real public benefits. As more organizations adopt these highly effective methods, understanding this model is no longer just an academic exercise. It's essential for shaping a society where power and resources are distributed fairly. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, consider liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into how our world really works. See you next time.